All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Packet 3, Chapter 5, The Market. Chapter 3 was about demand. Chapter 4 was about supply. Now we're putting them together into a great big X. So draw a big L and put a just put a big P up here for price. Put a big Q down here for quantity. It's important to label your axes. I think I've said before, price is the independent variable. Economics screws up the graphing of science. Every other science has the dependent variable. Not economics. We're going independent. Here's the dependent variable, quantity. Once you've labeled your axes and have a big L, put a big X. Choom, bam, big X. Okay, that's not working quite like I wanted it to. Let's try this. Put a big X on this bad boy. So there we go. Great. Big X. This is supply up, and away, as you may recall, positively sloped. And this is demand, negatively sloped. So there we have a big X labeled supply, labeled demand. Down and away demand, up and away supply. We need ourselves a title. Let's call this squash. My wife went to Bayern Center the other day and picked up a cardboard box of various vegetables and fruits. I think mostly all vegetables. And in there was a squash. Pineapple, too. Like Bayern Center grows pineapples. And squash is not in season. Anyway, title. We're going squash. Here's an X marks a spot. You may recall we take the X marks a spot and shoot over to find our price. I think I explained in that packet why price always goes to X. We go back to X, we drop back down. I'll explain it here again in a moment. And that's a nice QE. Pow, pow, pow. Now you may recall QE means equilibrium price. In other words, we'll go here. In other words, QE exists if and only if quantity supplied equals quantity demanded. So this is the quantity supplied. How do you know? Well, you take your price, shoot over till you hit the supply curve. Drop down. I hit the supply curve, I drop, that's QS. How do I find QD? I take my price, shoot over, hit the demand curve, drop down, that's QD. At the same time, both exist at the same spot. So we're going to call it QE, equilibrium quantity. Okay? I'm going to slide this off here to the side and resume our saga. So what if the price of squash was up here? Let's change the color. Let's go price high. I'm calling it P high. If the price is high, I take this price, which is up in this location, and I shoot over to find Q, D, and QS. It's a price-directed system. So I take my price, and I shoot over, and I hit a line. Now that's the demand curve, so I hit the demand curve and I drop down. So guess what we're going to call this? Right, QD, quantity demanded, and let's hope it stays. Oh, it's a D there. We'll just put a D there. No, okay, fine, QD. Where's QS? Well, you take your price, continue to shoot over until you hit the supply curve. You drop down, so this must then be, because we hit supply curve, this is QS. And like in the Microsoft Word doc packet, you notice the gap in between here. This is a shortage, or is this a surplus? At P high, do we have a surplus or a shortage? Recall, this is 0. Corner is 0. So we go from 0 to QD. That's the quantity demanded from 0 to whatever this number is. And from 0 to QS, that's our quantity supplied at this price. Notice, the price changed. We've risen, for some reason the price went up. I don't like that. Let's get rid of that. For some reason the price went up. So let's do that. Will it work now? No, but anyway. For some reason the price is up here, and we end up with a shortage or surplus. I hope you have an answer in your head. The answer is QS is much greater than QD at this price. So we have ourselves a surplus. Notice when the price changed, I did not change demand. I did not change supply. Price does not change supply. Price does not change demand. It does change quantity, though, as you see here. And at this price, we have a surplus. I also said in the packet, or wrote in the packet, that suppliers compete with suppliers. They do not compete with demanders. They negotiate with demanders. They work out deals with demanders. Suppliers compete with suppliers. And of course, you know that a supplier wants the price to be as high as possible. But if the competition has a lower price, guess what happens to Mr. Supplier's stuff? Ain't going to be sold. So Mr. Supplier has to compete by dropping his price to get customers in the door. So the supplier competes with suppliers. And the way they do that is by pushing the price down. So competition between suppliers pushes the price down. Okay, we got a big arrow pushing down here. Demanders, on the other hand, they compete too. A demander competes with other demanders. And how does a demander compete? Well, think about it. A demander really wants the price as low as possible. Don't you want a really low price? Yeah, I apologize for this arrow. Demanders want a really low price, but to get whatever it is, you got to pay more. I mean, just look at toilet paper in the store. If we really let businesses be businesses, they would auction toilet paper off to customers for whatever price customers are willing and able to pay. Willing and able to pay. But no, that's illegal. We'll talk more about that in Packet 4. Chapter 5, Packet 4 coming up. Why that is stupid. Anyway, demander competes with demander by bidding the price up like an auction. So you have a force of competition between demanders pushing the price up. You have a force of competition between suppliers pushing the price down. Where these two forces of competition are equal, hello, equilibrium, right? Yeah. But back to my story. If P high exists, we're not in equilibrium. We have a surplus. And because it's a surplus, the forces of competition between suppliers is greater because we're above the X. See here, there's greater force of competition pushing down. So what's going to happen is the price is going to be pushed down by supplier competing with supplier until eventually that price returns back down to X marks the spot. That's just how it works. Okay, we looked at a price that's above X and we pushed down because of competition between suppliers. Let's take a look at a price that's below X. I'm going to call this P low, meaning below X marks a spot. So again, like usual, it's a price-directed system. We take our price, we shoot across, we hit a line. What line is this? The line is supply. So we drop it down and we call this, because we hit the supply curve, QS. You should be graphing this also. We take the price, shoot it on across, we hit the demand curve. Feel free to pause the tape so you can catch up. Because we hit the demand curve, we drop down and call this QD. You'll notice now that QD does not equal QS, so because they don't equal each other, this is not equilibrium. Is it a surplus? Is it a shortage? From 0 to QS is how much is supplied at this price of P low. And from 0 to QD is how much is people want to buy, the quantity demanded. Yeah, that's a nice D. Let's just fix that up here. Stupid little program. Don't worry about that. That's just to keep it from... Okay, good. QD is greater than QS. QD, QS. Overlap? No overlap. So QD being greater than QS, this is a surplus, right? No, it's a shortage. You got way too many customers that want and are able to buy at P low. But the businesses will not make money above this quantity supplied, so they're only willing to provide this much for sale. This is a shortage. Shortage below X. You'll notice that the forces of competition between demanders is greater, so that will be pushing the price up because demander will outbid other demander to get whatever it is. In this case, squash. So demanders will bid up the price, and suppliers are more than willing to let people push the price up because remember, suppliers want a high price. They compete amongst themselves, pushing price down, but this force of competition is not as strong as this force of competition between demanders. So demanders will push, and again, the price will increase until it eventually comes close to PE1. The X marks the spot, because here, like we've said, the forces of competition are equal. So ladies and gentlemen, like a pirate, price, pirate, they always want to go where? To X. I think I want to go to X. Yeah, Johnny Depp, whatever. Fun movie, I guess. You can watch it a lot because we don't have school now. So if I ever do this, I would watch a pirate movie. So price is like a pirate. It wants to go to X. It wants to go to X. Always, never not, always yes. Adam Smith, you may recall in the book, Adam Smith said we have an invisible hand of competition. Competition between supplier and supplier. Competition between demander and demander. Again, supplier does not compete with demander. They do not compete. Suppliers and demanders negotiate in what we call the zone of trade. Suppliers try to push the price up, but competition forces them to do it down. Demanders want a low price, but because of competition between demanders, we push the price up. So guess what happens in a shortage to price every time if it's allowed to move? It goes up to X. Just like we had before, a surplus up here, and that pushed the price down because it's not at X. It wants to go to X always. So we're going to then just assume always, you put your title up here, this is how we start. P, Q, demand, supply, big X, title, shoot over from the X, PE1, shoot over down from the X, QE1, and this is where we always start playing games. If it's a surplus or shortage, the price will be pushed to X because of competition. And that ends part 1 of the market.